Hey, David Brewster here with a new episode of 3 for All. This is 3 Rich Williams licks from 1982. We're going to be talking about the band Kansas again. I've had a lot of requests to feature more of Kansas's music, and there's a chord play episode, not to mention episodes and lessons related to Steve Morse. This is really the first time we've really looked at Rich Williams, definitely a legendary guitarist. And since I haven't talked about Kansas in a while, I want to start this episode off the right way. In case you've forgotten or you just don't know, Kansas totally rocks. So it does seem in Kansas's band history, Rich Williams is kind of overshadowed and overlooked. Usually Kerry Livgren and Steve Morse and players like that get all the attention, and they definitely kind of hog the spotlight, which those are great guitarists. I love Steve Morse, and definitely Kerry's a badass too. But Rich is long-standing. He's the long-standing member of Kansas. I think also he and the drummer are the original members that have been in the band the entire time. But it's really interesting to notice, like, he's the anchor of Kansas. And he's usually, kind of hanging out, like, off the side of the stage or in the shadows in the back somewhere. You can barely see him. He's got the eye patch, which he basically lost his eye when he was a kid with a fireworks accident. So be careful with fireworks out there. But soft-spoken, very humble, kind of quiet until he grabs the guitar, and then he starts riffing and grabbing these great licks and solos and all kinds of stuff. A badass guitarist. And speaking of the guitarist of Kansas, here's an image with players that have worked with this band. But keep in mind, Rich is the main long-standing, guitarist that's played in Kansas since the very beginning. So the licks in this episode actually came from a live concert appearance with Kansas from 1982, which would have been their Vinyl Confessions tour. And Rich was just knocking my socks off. I mean, no offense to Kerry, who was also on stage playing guitar, and he also played a lot of keyboard during that concert. But Rich consistently had the best tone, the best phrasing, best licks. And it was really kind of frustrating because when Rich would play a solo, the cameraman or camera people would pan to Kerry or they would pan to the drummer. And it was like they barely even featured Rich on, video or whatever on screen. But then there were little moments where you could see him. And I was almost laughing where it's like, man, just, give him some camera time. He is rocking out. And that's kind of typical of Rich's legacy and history with Kansas. He's kind of overlooked, kind of like I said, kind of in the background or in the shadows, just cranking out monster guitar stuff. So anyway, here we go. Okay, here's a bonus lick from this footage I wanted to include right here. So I'm putting a bonus lick at the beginning of this lesson. What am I going to do later in this episode? I'll figure it out. But this is really cool, and they were doing this multiple times during this concert. The whole band was playing these licks and phrases and melodies together. And this is basically vamping off a G5, moves to A, and then it ends on B. And it's kind of a B minor, like B natural minor sequence, like this. One more time. So it's really just doing this, in the background, and then you hear the whole band play different harmonies and, versions of this. And I just thought it was really cool to hear the whole band just knock that fill or that sequence just right out of the park, like this. Alright, the first lick's this expressive melodic phrase. This is an F sharp minor. And it's not really that hard to play. It just sounds really good in the pocket and in the mix of what's going on in the song. And that's typical of Rich's playing style, playing like just the right notes at just the right time, like this. Not hard to play, just really cool. So think of F sharp, F sharp minor right there, and then that C sharp to A, and then you're going to grab that C sharp again, and then basically shift slide that A to G sharp. Like that. And then the second half kind of answers it. Like that. Right. Really cool phrasing. Like I said, not hard to play. It just sounds cool. And when I play the clip, notice like how it sits in the mix and the rhythm of what's going on around him. I mean, Rich definitely is a master of playing stuff like this. Okay, next up's this funky double stop idea. This is in C sharp or C sharp minor, and actually this and the following lick are part of the same solo, kind of a, you know, part one and part two. But this first lick's like this. So once again, nothing really hard to play, just super funky and in the mix of what's going on around him. It just fits perfectly right there. Just think C sharp minor pentatonic box, and then we're kind of adding some double stops as we go, like that. So the whole thing just takes place on the 9th and 11th fret like that, but it's that funky kind of rhythmic phrasing and everything. One more time. And then wait for this next lick, which is the next lick that answers that first one. One more time. The next lick's this busy melodic phrase that basically follows the previous lick. So we're still in C sharp minor pentatonic, and it's something like this. One more time. So we're still playing out of that C sharp minor pentatonic box right there. Start with the bend and release on that B note, and then so that's kind of weird with the bend and release, a hammer on pull off right there, and then two F sharps right there. And it's the way you're coming down that's kind of weird. Where you're grabbing that C sharp and then that G sharp and then end on that B. So it's kind of weird. And then as soon as you grab that B note, then you're going to start climbing up. It's like C sharp minor blues right there with the flat 5. And then you're doing a double stop there, 11. Back to that 11th fret on the D. And then a double stop on the 9. And then just grab that final C sharp. So really slow. A little faster. And it's once again all about the timing too, because that last note lands right on the downbeat. And then when you pair that with the previous lick, that kind of funky one, you can kind of hear how that works, like this. Really cool lick, but check it out. Okay, here's a bonus lick from this footage, and I've already added a bonus lick to this lesson, so either I can't count or I just really wanted to include this lick. I think I just wanted to include this lick. This is a busy triplet kind of arpeggio-based idea, and it's in B flat minor. Really cool, like this. One more time. So we're in B flat minor right there, right? And he's basically starting right here. Right? And then basically hop over here, grab that F, E flat, and that C note. And you're going to basically move that down a whole step, that E flat and that D flat to that B flat. And then you want to do a hammer on pull off right there. So the first part right there, right? When you get to that B flat, then you're going to move back just a little further, that D flat and C, and then pull that off to that A flat, and then do a hammer on pull off right there between that C and that D flat. And then you're going to basically end with that shift slide into that B flat. Really cool, tight, melodic phrase. Starts with that kind of implied arpeggio and then starts fluttering around. And just a cool Rich Williams lick right there. Real aggressive and tight in the pocket and in the rhythm. Cool lick. Alright, that's going to wrap this episode of 3 for All with this look at 3 Rich Williams licks from 1982. And I did have requests to feature more Kansas. I don't think I've really had any requests for Rich Williams, which there should have been some, but I haven't seen any. But honestly, I put this together because I watched this concert like about a week or two ago. And like I said, Rich was just knocking my socks off. No offense to Kerry. Kerry's tone had like effects and it sounded kind of, I don't know, it just didn't really sound as good as Rich. I suspect Rich was probably using his old 70s rig, you know, like maybe some Marshalls and stuff or some Fenders or whatever he was using back then. And he had that really good organic kind of tone. And then Kerry's tone had like some chorus and stuff. Of course, he was playing keyboard. And of course, Kerry left the band like a year after this concert. So I just locked on to Rich, and it was like, no, that's the sound, and that's the kind of stuff I wanted to share in this episode. No offense to Kerry or anybody else that's played with Kansas, but like I said at the beginning, Rich is the long-standing member in the guitar department of Kansas's band members. They've had lots of personnel changes, but definitely Rich is one of the long-standing, original members, right alongside Phil behind the kid on drums. So anyway, leave some feedback and comments. Please subscribe to my lessons, and I'll be back before you know it with more content and material. Thank you.